Hello there folks, I'm back again with another speed paint for you guys, and this week I am once again doing a Neopets Pokémon speed paint. It's actually been a little bit since I've done one, since I've been busy with other art challenges, but I figured it would be a fun way to get back into the groove of my normal routine. So today, let's use some various Neopets paintbrushes on one of my favorite Pokémon of all time, Chikorita. The first brush that we're going to be doing today is actually one I haven't done before, which is the strawberry paintbrush. And part of the reason I haven't done this one is because I feel like it's a little bit simple and I like to do a little bit more complicated ones usually for these challenges. And also I feel like I haven't found a Pokemon that was very fitting for it. But I mean, Chikorita is a plant, very much just a little root vegetable little guy. And you know, I thought it would make for a good adaptation of a strawberry Pokemon. Now, I also don't really like how the strawberry paintbrush looks, personally. I find it a little busy and a little weird. I don't know, I feel like it has the potential to be really cute, but in my opinion, I just am not the hugest fan of the color palette they use for the Neopets guys, because, I don't know. Maybe I just find it a little bit too saturated or a little bit too contrasty. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm not the hugest fan of it. But I thought it would look really good with Chikorita, since Chikorita already has this very round shape. It's got a big darn leaf on its head. So I figured this would make a very good adaptation. First thing I did was to make the leaf on its head more pointy and serrated. That's because strawberry leaves are actually fairly serrated. We actually grow a few of them in our backyard, or at least we used to back in the day. And I still remember what those look like. I took a look at the Neopets, and sure enough, a lot of them still have these serrated leaves on their designs as well, so yeah, it just makes it more like a strawberry to add an actual strawberry leaf. Next up was, of course, just drawing that simple body. Chikorita is very easy, although sometimes you have to really work at the head to get the right angle. I feel like as a kid, I knew Chikorita was very simple and easy to draw, but I could never get a happy shape for how the face was. And I think it's because it's deceptively cylindrical, it's very evenly the same size on the top and bottom. And so whenever I drew Chikorita when I was young, it would be kind of pointier on the top than on the bottom, a little bit more pyramid-like than a cylinder, I guess. And I tried to be very mindful of the head shape while I was working on this challenge, since I love Chikorita, I love how it looks, and I really wanted it to look decently on model, at least for something like this, where I draw it as a god-dang strawberry. For the seeds, I actually used a very similar technique as I did with the stars on my Neopets Deoxys, and for a lot of my skins on Flight Rising, where I basically just had an outline effect on the whole layer and just drew in the shapes and let the outlines take care of themselves. This is a pretty simple technique for if you want to do something like this, and it really cut down my work. I didn't have to draw every single outline and fill it in. I just had to draw all the seeds and the outline took care of itself, which I think looked pretty good. Overall, while this is a very weird brush for me and I'm not the hugest fan of this Neopets paintbrush, I think I did a good job interpreting Chikorita in it. I think it came out really cute. I think it's very funny looking with all the seeds on it, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this one came out. Next up, we have a classic for the Neopets Pokemon Challenge, and it is the Candy Paintbrush. I adore this paintbrush, I love the diversity of it. Although the past 2 times I've done it, I've done a very similar approach, so I'm happy to report that I'm finally doing something different with the Candy Paintbrush. Alright. So for Chikorita, I obviously wanted to do something kind of plant or fruit inspired. And when I think about fruit candy that has similar sort of shapes to Chikorita, I usually think about fruit slice candy. I don't really eat a lot of it. As someone with food allergies, there's just a lot of candies I sadly am not able to eat because they either contain nuts or are usually manufactured alongside. So while I'm not very, I don't know, proficient in fruit candy, I still think it's got a lot of interesting shapes and textures. So what I ended up going for with this Chikorita design was making its body have the texture similar to a bit like a gumdrop or a Sour Patch Kid. This is a thing you see a lot in the candy Neopets, is this sort of citric acid covered sort of texture. And I also went with the leaf being a big slice of fruit candy. Now, I've always adored the look of these sort of sliced fruit candies. I think they're very lovely. I love the high contrast. I love how, like, stylized they look and how they're still obviously fruity while also being definitely, like, I don't know, like a cartoon interpretation of a fruit. And I just thought it'd be a lot of fun, and it makes sense as the shape for the leaf on Chikorita's head quite a bit, so I thought it'd be a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with the texturing when working on the color for this piece as well. For the Neopets candy, guys, they usually have a little bit of this translucent quality to them where you can see almost a depth of the color. Similar to if you were to look at an actual gumdrop, you could see that there's more dye in the center, of course, than on the edges because, you know, it's thicker there. So I tried to do that sort of quality with Chikorita here. I used a ink splatter sort of brush to get that sort of citric acid sprinkled on the outside quality, and I tried to use it as almost a bit of shading since it seems to be present very much on the edges and on the highlights on the Neopets that have this effect, so I tried to use that to get that similar effect here. And overall, I'm pretty happy with this piece. Getting this texture down was a little bit challenging, but I had a lot of fun with it. I think I hit the effect I was going for pretty well. And it was just a lot of fun to work with. I feel very, like, clever for having come up with the citrus fruit leaf for this design, and it was a lot of fun. Honestly, the only thing that gave me trouble was, weirdly enough, not anything related to the brush, but just the face. I don't know, I have a lot of trouble drawing Chikorita looking right for some reason, so I had to do some adjustments with the face, just the mouth and eye distance. It was a whole thing. I feel like when you're drawing Chikorita, you can really tell if the face is in the right place by if that little, like, bud necklace will show up correctly. And so that was the first sign that I needed to do some adjustments, but after doing that, I think it came out really good. I'm very happy with this piece. It's a very different approach than I usually do for Candy Neopets. Thank God, by the way, because I've been meaning to get a little more diverse with my Candy Pokemon, so I think this came out pretty cute. And of course, last but most certainly not least, we have the Faerie Chikorita. This is the one from the thumbnail. Now, I love the Faerie brush. It is probably one of my favorite Neopets brushes, just because I love what it does. I love the sort of unified color palette that all the Faerie Neopets have. Like, even though they all are different colors, they all look like they belong together in the same sort of environment. And I just adore the wings. I love, like, the diversity of the shapes and stuff, and it's just a lot of fun, and I just adore a fairy aesthetic. So I had a lot of fun with Chikorita in this one. A weird challenge for me in this piece was the colors. I wasn't 100% sure what I want to go with. Like, I'm pretty aware of what the color palette is for Faerie Neopets. Like, there's this sort of range from, like, a cool violet all the way up to, like, a teal. But also there's, like, a little bit of pink in there and a little bit of yellow. There's, like, a very specific sort of aesthetic that the Faerie Neopets all kind of go in. And all those colors are all fairly similar in value when I think about them in my head. So it was a little hard to kind of plot where I wanted to put everything since they are all very close to me in my head. So I went through a lot of trial and error trying to decide a couple different things for the colors. I did some, like, alternating colors with the buds around the neck. It was kind of a pain in the butt, but eventually I figured out a nice little happy medium. I was able to find a good, cohesive, mostly cool color palette, and I'm pretty happy with how this design came out. For the background, I did something a little more involved than the other two pieces. I did another sort of dreamlike, cloudy background. As I've mentioned before with another Neopets speed paint, I always associate Fairyland and Neopets with the sky. I know it's been in the ground for, like, a long time, like over 10 years. Oh my god, is it almost 15 years that it's been in the ditch? It's been in the dirt? Well, to me, Fairyland, I still associate it with the clouds, even though I know it's not up there anymore, so whenever I do, like, a Fairy Neopet, I like to draw them in the clouds, because to me, that's their native environment. So I had a lot of fun putting these little clouds in there. I tried to make, like, the color palette in the background be very similar to the color palette I associate with the Faerie Neopets, and it was a lot of fun. It was kind of an interesting challenge trying to figure out everything. This background's a lot more busy than the other ones that I did for this challenge, but I think it's pretty cute. I feel like it's very fitting. It sort of reminds me of these collages my mom used to make when I was a kid, which I also very much, in my head, I associate that with Neopets, because that was around the same time that I was playing the game and that I was introduced to it. that my mom was in this phase of making these very nice, like, collage and resin type pieces. So, I don't know, I feel like it all comes together for me, even if it's a very specific memory of mine that makes me think these things are associated. But I don't know, I think it's pretty cute, I think it's a lot of fun, it's very ostentatious and glittery, which I think is totally fitting for a Neopet Faerie design. And with that, those are all of the designs I have for you guys today. Let me know if you have a favorite. I think my favorite for today is probably the Faerie design. I mean, I liked it so much I used it in the thumbnail, so I'm very happy with it. Let me know what your favorite was in the comments below, I'd love to hear. And let me know if you have any other Pokemon you'd like me to do some Neopets challenges with, since I'm always looking for more suggestions. If you would like to support me, I recommend checking out my Ko-fi page. I'm trying to build up some more followers on there, and I'm trying to get to 10 monthly subscribers, so if you're interested in supporting me and helping me do my work, I would really appreciate it. Plus, expenses go to stuff like paying my bills, feeding my pet, and all sorts of other stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back again next week with another speed paint for you guys. And in the meantime, why don't you go out there and make some art?